Now, we've been talking for quite some time about what to do with the Buck property after it was purchased, and now we've made some decisions. Let's talk about that.
We convened a Joint Facilities Advisory Commission about 2 years ago now. It was one of the key recommendations of a major study effort that went on in 2015. And they've been hard at work to think about the long-range future of Arlington County and our facilities planning. But the first thing we asked them to do was take a look at maybe a shorter-term future of a really unique and exciting parcel that the county was acquiring, right in the heart of Arlington, across from Washington Lee High School. It's also unique in that it is industrially zoned land, which is a real rarity in Arlington County. What the JFAC advised us was that a separate planning process should get underway for its long-term future. As you can imagine, something so centrally located has incredible potential to meet a lot of our long-term facilities needs. But there are also working buildings on the site now with only a little bit of maintenance can be used for a variety of needs. And so the Joint Facilities Advisory Commission gave us some options or scenarios about how those buildings could be used on an interim, say 1 to 10 year basis. This need of the schools to park its white fleet, i.e. its non-school bus vehicles, fits squarely, we think, right in those 1 to 10 year interim needs. It's a use of the surface parking lot already at the Buck site. There is no investment required really to ready the site for them. And we think this will be a pretty minimal use, actually pretty familiar to the types of uses of that parking lot when those buildings were serving other things in the neighborhood already. The other thing that's important about this white fleet is that they meet needs, whether it's delivering meals for our school kids, supplies for teachers. These are the types of things that folks don't always think about. We think about our facilities needs in terms of schools, parks, maybe even fire stations. But it's also incredibly critical to keep the operations running, make sure kids eat and teachers have what they need.
Cars.
Well, you know, and I think it's, excuse me, also important to point out, we're only talking about 50 parking spaces here. They're already striped. And the schools, I think, is making every effort to reach out to the community. They're going to have a community liaison. They'll have a phone number if there's any folks from the immediate neighborhood who are concerned at any time. So schools, just like the county, strives to be a good neighbor. Sometimes we fall a little short, but we're confident that that schools and the community will be able to work together to accommodate this need on some space that we paid good money for, and we want to make sure that it meets our needs now and into the future.
That's right.
Now, and you mentioned it's going to be about 50 vehicles. I know you said 50 spaces. Is
Right.
it about that many vehicles?
Right.
And do we have a timeline of how long we plan to use this site in this way, or is it still TBA?
It is a little bit TBA or TBD, to be determined, right? We know, again, we'd planned for sort of these 1 to 10 year uses. The goal is absolutely to come up with a master plan for this site over time. That's a big undertaking for our community. We don't do anything halfway in Arlington, and if we're going to master plan it, we want to make sure that we're doing it with full information about all of our needs, counties and schools, as well as really doing a deep analysis of what the site can support. That takes consultants, it takes engineering analyses, traffic impact analyses, and because it's Arlington, it takes a lot of community engagement and outreach. So we have not had the bandwidth to undertake that fully long-range study to think about what is this Buck site going to look like in 2040. That's not underway yet. You know, at the end of the day, we'll have to prioritize some planning processes over others. But these interim uses are envisioned for about 1 to 10 years. And the license agreement, which was the actual act that we took on Saturday, will give schools the option to have that for a couple of years and then to extend for every couple of years thereafter until 2026.
Okay.
So it's an initial term of 2 years with annual
Okay.
renewals. And the other thing I would just chime in with is JFAC, as Katie mentioned, the Joint Facilities Advisory Commission, jointly appointed by schools and by the county. So another example of how we're doing a better job of collaborating together.
Of course. All right. Well,